Welcome to the Inner Flame podcast where stardust meets the body. This is the weekly energetic pulse. So we're looking at the week of, I have to look at my phone, July 20th through the 26th. I felt like last week felt very grounded in a way. It's kind of offering up that juicy nourishment that we need. Or that we needed, and this week is also offering up some juiciness, but in a different way. It feels like still grounded but different. So let's get into it. At the beginning of the week, we're kind of looking at this energy of you'll survive this, right? New solutions and beginnings. And it feels like if I'm looking at the collective, right? I think there's still this exhaustion. And I'm going to be really excited when we, as a collective, like get out of the goo phase. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this and this and this and this. And it's not to say those things aren't here, but it is, we are feeling the intensity of life right now. And so it's kind of this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, when's it going to get easier, And it kind of takes me back to, the end of last week was this feeling of the whys, like, why is this happening? And so you can kind of see that, like, coming back into this week a little bit with, like, you'll survive this, and trying to really be anchored in the idea of like new beginnings and new solutions. And this is like really coming to us through the lens of like cleaning it up. And I think about like my friend Amanda, who Barney and Flo, who is doing this feng shui summer. And she talks about getting rid of 9 items. And you can do this in a day, you could do this over the course of a week, you could really do whatever feels right to you. You could do more than 9, but this is really like reminding us that our spaces have an energetic hold, an energetic imprint on our energies. But this also is like, I feel like this is saying to remind us that, to get to the core of a situation, like what's really going on here. Maybe it's freedom from a burden or from a situation or from an experience. It's sweeping away, what no longer is good for us or is working for us. And I feel like that's like pretty loud in its message, okay? So like, you'll survive this, but maybe we need to like clean up something, right? Maybe we need to take time to tending to, and this is what's so interesting is I'm, working on an event for women called the Garden Within. And it's really where we are like tending to ourselves, right? So like this this energy is saying, where can you tend to yourself? Like, where can you work with the energetics that might be holding you back, okay? This also, I feel like this is like saying we need to recharge, and this is through the expression of recharging. So how can we know that we're going to survive this? How can we be open to new beginnings and new solutions? And I think sometimes when things feel so overwhelming that we can't see the forest through the trees. We can't see maybe the next step necessary for us to take. So the clean it up is really like, okay, what is a good new routine for me? So for me personally, I've been wanting to change my morning routine for a while, but I've noticed with me, like, I sit in this energy of like I'm not ready, but I can feel it, I can feel it, and then one morning, boom, it just happens. It all just falls into place. And I've been able to get up, and I was working in the morning because that's when it suits me the best. It's slower, it's quieter, but I also felt like I just didn't have time for me. So what I started doing was cleaning up my morning routine, right? I started offering myself some space for just me, right? And that's allowing me, I've been doing like a new EFT practice for me to go, yeah, I will survive this. There are new beginnings and there's new things happening. But it's also the energy is asking us to just like clean up some things. And I think that can be very overwhelming, right? Like sometimes we're like, yeah, we know what we need to do. Start with one thing. And I think that's why I love my friend Amanda's approach so much with the feng shui is like 9 things. Walk into one room and figure out 9 things that you don't need anymore and just remove them from your space, because our bodies need to recharge. And I think we are getting so overwhelmed with, the world's energies. And what's really interesting is when I talk about the collective energy, so many of us are still viewing the collective as separate from us. When we really are upgrading, I think we're going to fully be able to embody the fact that our consciousness is one. It is one unit. So, with that being said, right, we're not separate from one another. And I think as the collective, like the collective is exhausted. So we need to find ways to recharge. And I just think that's going to be really important. I talk about nervous system care. I talk about tending to yourself. And like the last month, I will say, like I've shared, it was very, very hard for me. Very hard. And I felt very much in survival mode. And those things where we like want to tend to ourselves, it doesn't always come easy because we are hit with like overwhelming exhaustion. So it's again choosing what is one thing that I can do to tend to myself, to clean up the energy. So then by the middle of the week, we're looking at adventure, saying yes to change. And this feels like really good. This feels like, I don't know. I was going to put a planet on it, but I don't know. Like Jupiter and Venus. Like it just feels like very auspicious, like very good, nurturing, good vibes coming our ways. But we also need to be able to receive it, right? Which means we might need to tend to our building blocks. And the building blocks is always, to me, like we've got to start from the very bottom. We need to start at the foundation. And I talk about this in my temple, but I also talk about this a lot in what I share in Substack. And here is that, like, if our nervous system is not in a space where we can receive, there could be beautiful things right in front of you, like your garden or your kids laughing, or a butterfly flying past, and your system literally cannot receive it. And so the building blocks is really saying, let's start over so that we can say yes to change. And I want to talk about this a little bit, because I think there's a lot of us that feel that we are we stop participating in life because we've become discouraged. We've become disconnected. Hello, I was. We feel we aren't enough. We feel we aren't gifted. We feel like we aren't going anywhere. And this can sound like so many different things, like I'm not creative enough, somebody else is going to do it better, my voice doesn't matter, who am I to say this, what's the point in any of it, I'll never be good at any of this. And instead of engaging in life, we actually withdraw from it. And what's so interesting is the joy card came back this week. And we had that last week. And I really talked about how, we are going to receive our abundance when we can let go. And that seems to be kind of following us into this week, where the change that we are looking for is found in joy. And I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I'm going to slow down. I'm going to slow down a minute. I was talking to a friend the other day, and she was talking about this workshop that she wanted to do. And she was like, I don't know if I really want to put the money towards it, and I don't know if I want to do this. And, her husband had mentioned to her, hey, why don't you just do this for fun? And she said to me, I didn't even think of that. And it just goes to show, like, we are in a dominating world of masculine energy. And so I'm not saying that the masculine energy does not experience joy, but women experience joy differently, right? And we as a society, I think we forget to look or find joy because we are kind of, what do I want to say? We're geared towards productivity and data and what makes sense and logic. And the feminine is very different. And if you've listened to me on my not my podcast, but I had a Patreon channel where I talk about the new paradigm. I've also shared that here on Substack. I share that about the new paradigm energy. The feminine energy is coming back, and it's everything's coming back into balance. But we don't know how to receive that, right? The feminine energy is about joy. It's about pleasure. It's not about logic. It's about intuition and feeling and flow and creativity in the void and power. And there's so much in that energy that I think it feels terrifying. And so the middle of the week is really saying, like, yes, there is so much coming to us, right? And the adventure. How can we find tiny adventures to play out joy, right? Maybe this is like, okay, I don't have the money to go on a vacation, but I'm going to go take myself to get ice cream, or I'm going to pop the kids in the car and we're going to go find a river and we're going to put our feet in the water. Or like, what is a way you can find little adventure where you can say yes to change through joy, but also know that you are, right? You are actually re-engineering the foundations of your nervous system, because I think that's something that we all have to do as a people. That's not just women, that's not just men, that is us as a collective, as a human race. We are reorganizing ourselves to be like, oh, I don't have to do this, and this. I can do one thing, and then I can go find joy. So the middle of the week is really saying to not let yourself be disconnected, to be discouraged, for you to kind of ruminate in those feelings of, I'm not enough, what's the point, it's never going to happen for me, I'm not creative enough, but to really allow yourself to rebuild from the bottom up. I'm going to share a practice that I do. A vulnerable share here. The last month, I've really struggled with my body and some old kind of, health patterns showing up. And it really sometimes makes me spiral. And I don't feel like I tend to myself. And sometimes my tending would be out of panic, not out of embodiment. And I started saying to myself, I need to just do something very simple. And again, this goes back to us feeling, you get online and you're like, oh, if you drink this drink, my friend said this the other day, if you drink this drink 5 times a day, you're not going to get cancer and yada, yada, yada. And you're like, oh, well, now I have to drink that drink 5 times a day. But I'm like, no, I want to start simple. I need to start with me. And I just started saying to myself, I am strong and healthy. And I started doing my tapping, my EFT. I am strong and healthy. Even though I don't feel it, even though I might not believe it, I am strong and healthy. And then I started going into my confidence is strong and healthy. My self-worth is strong and healthy. My lungs are strong and healthy, right? And so to me, I'm taking the time to deliberately take something that I want to change, right? The clean it up card. I want to clean up what I ruminate on all the time. Oh, this is this. Oh, what if it's this? Oh, it could be this. Why is this? Why, blah, 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 blah. It's like really hyper focused on this thing that I want for myself, strong and healthy, and rebuilding, right? Reorganizing that foundation and jumping into saying yes to change through joy. Because when my nervous system feels steady, I'm like, oh, I want to have fun. Okay, we move to the end of the week. Sorry, my dog is back here. I don't even know if you can see her, but she, like, this is her perch. She's making another debut. Say hi, Jonesy. I literally have like 4 inches of my chair. Yeah, you're a sweet girl. Okay, the end of the week is devotion, potency. Make your life a moving prayer. And like, what does prayer look like to you? Maybe prayer is literally praying. Sometimes that's how it works for me, but other times I feel like it's my EFT or it's journaling, right? Like, how are you making your life a living, moving, breathing prayer? And I think, again, this is where, we're being reminded to be in the here and now, because I think it's very easy for us to be pulled in the directions of the past or the future. And that isn't the present moment, right? And you could also look at that as like your nervous system doesn't know how to be in the present moment because it's either stuck in the past or it's concerned about the future. So it's really about being able to align or attune yourself to the reality of right now. And, if we're talking about like not participating in life because it's like I'm so discouraged, like what's the point? It's like this it falls under the umbrella of depression. It's like, I just like, I don't know enough to be able to move forward. But it's like, can we allow ourselves to learn more, so we can become devoted to something, right? And I think it's becoming so devoted to something that it flows through you naturally. And I remember reading this in Gene Keys where they talk about it's like your body goes through 7-year cycles. So it takes your cells 7 years to basically embody something so that it just becomes something that you do. And I know that probably sounds like a long time, but like, that's not that long. That's less than a decade, right? And it's like, oh, this is a part of me now. I think about what I did with hair. After 7 years of doing hair, it just became a part of me. I've been doing mediumship for more than 7 years, and it's like, oh, this is just a part of me. Nothing has, I've not stopped anything, right? There's a constant evolvement, but it just flows through you now. It's a part of you. And something might look a little bit different because maybe you're still learning, or maybe you've learned something new and you want to alter it or change it. But it's like allowing ourselves to be devoted, right? Because there's potency in devotion, and we are human. We are going to fall off the wagon. Like, we just are, right? We're just going to fall off sometimes. Like, I fell off the last month. But can we get ourselves back on? Can we reorient? Can we go, I am worthy. I am enough. I don't know it all, but that's okay. I'm going to keep going. Can we allow ourselves to be in the here and now? And towards the end of the week, this week, there's an asking around forgiveness. And maybe this is to yourself, because maybe you have been living in the past or have been living in the future, and your present moments have just whizzed right by, And you're like, oh my gosh, I haven't even been there for them because I was so focused on the past or I was so focused on the future. So maybe there's some forgiveness around the pressures that you put on yourself, right? The things that you demand of yourself. I also was talking to a few friends about unconditional love and, what does that look like? And, my one friend was saying, I put a lot of demands on myself. And it's like the expectations of ourselves are so high that we hold a lot of that in our bodies. And I feel like this week is really asking for forgiveness for whatever you feel you couldn't obtain or you couldn't do, or you thought you'd be there by now, or maybe it's something in the past. Really allowing your heart to open and just send love to the situation and the reality of right now. And there was something that I saw, of course, because Pinterest is my friend. It says, forgiveness is just another name for freedom. And this is by Brian Cady. And I love that because forgiveness is just another form of freedom. Where can we allow forgiveness? And maybe this is even for the collective, right? Maybe this is for what's going on or what's not going on, right? Like what we want to have happen in our macro reality, but it's just not happening. And it's like allowing forgiveness. And if we show up as the individual more devoted to ourselves, to our vision, to what we want for the world, then how could you possibly think that it isn't eventually going to happen? It's almost like we give up because if the external isn't offering, then what's the point? But it's got to be the other way around. We are the ones in charge of what happens. So we need to be devoted to ourselves, to our dreams, to what we want, to our like building that foundation. So this week very simply is about knowing that you're going to survive this, cleaning everything up to know that you need to recharge. Your energy right now might feel very thin. And that's I feel like I get this a lot actually when I do readings for the summertime. It's like we're almost stretched a little too thin in the summer. We don't necessarily get I'm just going to lay around in the sun all day, So anyway, the recharge, how can we recharge? I think there's like a layer of depletion here for some of us. And recharge, what does recharging look like? It doesn't necessarily look like laying in bed. Recharge can look like shaking out the energy that is not working for you, right? Because the clean it up card, maybe it's cleaning up a space, maybe it's decluttering, maybe it's doing an EFT to declutter your mind, right? Saying yes to change, knowing that when you are saying yes to change and doing it through the lens of joy, you are actually reorganizing your building blocks. Like to me, it's saying we're reorganizing ourselves, okay? And then at the end of the week, it's again being able to be present and finding devotion towards something and knowing that there's potency in that, there's power in that, there's something that's way more magical than we can probably even know. And forgiving yourself around things that feel like maybe they're not moving in the timeline that you want them to. So I am wishing you a wonderful week. And we will have some reflections down at the bottom of this. But I would love to hear, what resonated, what didn't resonate. Please remember, if not everything fits with what you're feeling, that's okay. Let it go. But I would definitely love to hear from you. And I will see you next week.